So following up on our previous presentation, we set up a MousePick that moves our cube object into the appropriate position, but we've created a little bit of a glitch. And that glitch is that if you notice here in the scene view, when I click and I choose a new location, you'll see that that cube actually moves down into the ground. And that's because our MousePick is selecting a point that is on the ground. And the center point, or the origin of our cube, is actually in the center of the object. And so the iTween is doing exactly what it's supposed to do, which is move that object at the point at which we click. But we want to correct for that because we want to keep our object above ground. Now there's two ways that we can fix this. The first way is that if we go to our move to state that's causing the iTween to happen. Remember, we're moving to our point pick variable, so we're storing that variable when we select it. And what we can do is we can modify that vector3 that we choose to ignore the y value when we pick. So in other words, if I go back to my original mouse pick state and I'll hit the play button, and as I roll my mouse around, if you look down here in the store point, you can see that y value, that second value over here, is set to 0. And so whenever I click that value, this object is going to move down to 0. And its default position, if I select that object and I look here at its y position, is actually 0.5 because that's where its center point is. It's half a meter above the ground in this case. And so we can correct for that. I'll just go to my move to point state, and I'll go into the vector3 category. And what I want to do is I want to set vector3 xyz. So I'll click and drag, and I'll make sure that that's the top of my action stack here. And what I want to do is I want to take the vector3 variable, the point pick that we've stored, and I don't want to change the x and I don't want to change the z, but what I want to do is for the y value, I'm going to toggle this button and I'm going to hard code a value. I know that I want to keep this at 0.5. So what that will do is that will transform this vector. It'll transform the y position to 0.5 and then continue to run any other action that we have on it. And the effect that we should get is that it should maintain its y position as we move around. There we go. So that was a quick fix to change to fix that vector3 y value, and that seemed to work pretty well. The alternative would be that we could create an empty game object, and we could call this our player object, and we could take our tank object and move that into our player object. And if we set the player to a value of 0, and then we could take our tank and make sure that it's set to 0.5, we could get the same results. In this situation though, what we need to do is we need to pull our FSM off of our tank object and attach it to our empty game object, which we've now called player. But I'll take that, I'll undo that until that tank jumps out, and I think I'll stick with setting the vector3. We'll catch up in the next presentation and talk about adding a turret.